Hello, friends. So I have some what I think is interesting stuff to present in this video as we continue through a study of the revelation of Jesus Christ in Revelation 13. Now, for those of you who are subscribed to my academia page, you are probably aware that I have updated this a couple of times recently. I was trying to make this more readable for the Revelation 17 portion. We can see in Zechariah 5 that there is a prophecy which goes side by side with Revelation 17, specifically with regard to the woman riding the beast. And obviously this is going to be important to Revelation 13 also because the beast is introduced. The beast in relationship to Daniel's prophecies. So this chart is very important. So I just wanted to show that in case you were unaware of why you might have gotten a couple of notifications about this being updated, because I was just trying to make it more readable. So I'm going to actually put these documents side by side. So this is I have the Word document that I'm actually working on and the spreadsheet that I created this document from, because there are parts of this where it's going to be easier to look at the imagery side by side as I'm reading through this. But I can't do that if I don't look at the actual Excel spreadsheet. It's highly likely that I will, instead of putting this in Word, that I will upload this to Academia in Excel and allow you guys to download this in Excel and kind of use it for your own working documents. But I'm not sure yet if I will do that. I did that for the layout of the book of Revelation, one of the charts. But we'll see. It might be easier for me to do that for you guys' purposes. I'm not sure. But as we go through this, I'm going to read through what I have written, and obviously this is subject to change until such time as I finish writing this. I might have to go back and update. Obviously I'm proofreading as I go, which is why I do this in parts, because it's easier for me to proofread as I go. So let's continue. As we follow the chart from left to right, top to bottom, so we're up here in this statue for kingdoms, for beasts, statue parts for kingdoms, for beasts. So as we follow it from left to right, top to bottom, there are several important truths we come to understand. Now, firstly, the beasts and the kingdoms correlate to each other by way of Babylon. That's the gray. This is the head of gold from Nebuchadnezzar's statue, and the lion from Daniel 7. Next we have Medo-Persia, that's light blue. That's the chest and arms of silver, and that is the bear. And we're comparing Daniel 2's statue to Revelation 7's beast. Greece, which is the dark blue, that's the belly and thighs of brass, and the leopard with 4 heads. And then Revelation 13's end times beast kingdom, beast/kingdom, which is in black, and that's the legs of iron and feet of iron and clay. That's the 7 heads and the 10 horns, the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns. So that is how those things jive. Now, secondly, it's important to note that Rome is absent from this mix. And as I was reading through the last part that I read through, I wound up doing a segue and doing a lot of extra explanation that I hadn't written about. So I thought, you know what, this is probably something, if I felt it that necessary to include outside of the writing, then it was probably a good idea to include in the writing also. So this is a very important sticking point for a ton of people, believing that Rome has anything to do with either Nebuchadnezzar's statue or any of the beasts in Daniel's prophecies. And we'll go through how Rome does factor in, but it's minutely, and it's not in either of these chapters. So I said, secondly, it's important to note that Rome is absent from this mix. I do believe this is the case because there can be no misconstruing that the 70th week, as well as the rise of the final beast/final kingdom, is yet future. To put Rome in the mix is to cause confusion about this prophecy being unfulfilled, thus creating ease and perpetuating the misconception or the falsehood that the 70th week in total or in part has been fulfilled. That could not be more inaccurate. And so as a side note, that is specifically why I believe that Rome is absent from both of these prophecies in Daniel, because if it was thrown into the mix, there would be way more people who think the 70th week is in total or in part fulfilled, when neither of those statements is true in the slightest. So in order to avoid confusion, Rome is absent from this. And many people have tried to insert it, and that's why we have a whole bunch of people thinking that part of the 70th week or all of the 70th week has already occurred, that it was related to 70 AD or something like that. Rome is not in here. And this, to my way of understanding, is the reason why. So it cannot be misconstrued. I mean, people tried to misconstrue it, but just because people think a certain thing doesn't make it right. Rome is not here. And so that is my understanding, which, could be right or wrong, but my understanding of why Rome is absent is so that we cannot misconstrue, so that the Bible makes it clear through exclusion that Rome is not pertinent to the 70th week. Because it's not. The Roman Empire specifically. So maybe I'll clarify. There we go. Instead of Rome, I will call it the Roman Empire. Because that's part of the issue too, is that people conflate the Roman Empire with Rome. I will try not to do that. I think I'm just predisposed to doing that because that's just what I grew up hearing also. So it's easy to get caught up in the lingo. So I'll try not to do that. Okay, so anyway, it's important to note that the Roman Empire is absent from this mix. And I do believe that's the case because there can be no misconstruing. There should be. Of course, people can. There should be no misconstruing that the 70th week, as well as the rise of the final beast/kingdom, is yet future. And then to put the Roman Empire in the mix is to cause confusion about a partial or total fulfillment of the 70th week, specifically with regard to 70 AD. And of course, we know that is inaccurate. And if you don't know that that is inaccurate, you should know that that is inaccurate. To underscore the point that the kingdoms move from Greece to Revelation 13 with nothing else in between, we have Antiochus Epiphanes given as the immediate foreshadow of the final beast in 2 of Daniel's chapters, 8 and 11. Now, as you can see from the chart above, so that's where we're going to look right here, because we're going to start with this stuff down here now. Yes, that's where we're at, is we're moving to this middle part with respect to Daniel 8. So this is going to be what we're talking about right now. So, as you can see from the chart above, or beside, Daniel 8 describes the movement from the Medo-Persian Empire to the Greek Empire via the victory of the goat with a horn between its eyes over the ram with 2 horns. Daniel 8:5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between its eyes, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable horns toward 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. So that's where we're at right here with this information. Daniel 11 speaks of the same transition between Medo-Persia and Greece, and this is from Daniel 11:1. And I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, it's the Medo-Persian Empire, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th. So we're actually going to move right here. That's what we're talking about. There shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia after Cyrus the Great, because you're talking about the Medo-Persians. It was Cyrus the Persian and Darius the Mede. So he's talking about the first year of Darius the Mede, which is the first year of the Medo-Persian Empire, Cyrus the Great being the first. So after him, there will stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. The 4th shall be far richer than they all, and that's Xerxes the first. And by his strength, through his riches, shall he stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up, Alexander the Great, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others besides those. So that's also talking about the same transition. And then obviously Alexander the Great is the goat with the horn between his eyes from the Greek Empire. And from after Alexander the Great, there came up four horns out of the Greek Empire. Indeed, the goat with the horn between his eyes is a reference to Alexander the Great. After him came four other horns out of the Greek Empire. From those four horns arose another little horn, Antiochus Epiphanes. So here we're moving from, and I have all of these arrows to show you the progression of events. So you have from Medo-Persia to Greece, Alexander the Great, moving to the four horns that came up out of the Greek Empire, and the little horn comes out from the four. That's Antiochus Epiphanes. He who was a foreshadow of the little horn who will come up among the 10 horns of the final empire. And that is what we see down here, is he is a foreshadow of the other little horn. The one little horn of the Greek Empire is a foreshadow of the little horn of the final empire. In fact, not only is Antiochus Epiphanes also described as a little horn, but he also commits an abomination of desolation that causes the sacrifice and offerings to cease for a period of time. And that is here. If we continue with our arrows, he's the little horn that comes up among the four, and he caused an abomination of desolation that lasted for 2,300 sacrifices. That is spoken of in Daniel 11:21 through 25, the foreshadow of which comes in the very next verses in Daniel 11:36. That's the abomination of desolation from the beast from Revelation 13. So as you can see, all of this is very important to understand the empires, to exclude the Roman Empire, and to understand how Antiochus Epiphanes of the Greek Empire was a foreshadow of the final beast from Revelation 13, and that there was nothing in between. Again, this is all referenced on the chart above, as you can see beside me, from Daniel 8 and Daniel 11. So below are the specific corresponding verses that tell us the story. Let's start in Daniel 8, verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south. This is talking about Greece, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. It waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? He said to me, unto 2,300 days. So that is 1,150 plus 1,150 evening plus 1,150 morning. They were sacrifices twice daily. So it was 1,150 days, the space of 2,300 sacrifices in total, and that was Antiochus Epiphanes, as we can see from Daniel 8, and we also will pick him up in Daniel 11 doing the same thing. He said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep, on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. He said, Behold, I will make thee now know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the he-goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So again, this is the transition between the Medo-Persian Empire and the Greek Empire via Alexander the Great. And after Alexander the Great's horn was broken, there came up 4 horns out of that kingdom to relate to the 4 heads of the leopard, which represents the Greek Empire from Daniel 7. And then leads to Antiochus Epiphanes, who is a foreshadow in multiple ways of the final beast, which we encounter in Revelation 13. So hopefully this makes it easier to understand why I'm going through all of this, to help us understand that Antiochus Epiphanes is directly before the Greek Empire, thus directly before the final one, because we need Antiochus Epiphanes to foreshadow. There's nothing new under the sun. Prophecy is pattern. So here is a similar text describing the same person and events in Daniel 11. So I'll move this over. And this is where I'm taking the verses from here, Daniel 11, starting in verse 21. And again, this is about Antiochus Epiphanes. In his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league you made with him shall he work deceitfully. For he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, the spoil, and riches. Yea, he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. That's talking about Egypt. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both of these kings' heart shall be to do mischief, and they that speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he return into the land with great riches. His heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. At the time appointed he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as of the latter, for the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant, and arms shall stand on his part. This is talking about the Antiochus Epiphanes taking away of the sacrifices for 2,300 times. From Daniel 8 that we read about. Arms shall stand on his part, they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. In that case, it was the sacrifice of a pig on the altar. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yea, yet shall they fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And indeed, after telling us about the movement between beasts and kingdoms, both Daniel 8 and 11 transition directly from Antiochus Epiphanes of the Greek Empire to the 4th beast of Revelation 13, by reference to him as the king. Now recall that Revelation already told us why he is called king. He is the king of the locusts, the angel of the bottomless pit, Apollyon the destroyer. Revelation 9:11. They had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So this is the transition between Kingdom 3 and Kingdom 4. Daniel 8:23. In the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not in his own power. He shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. That's talking about his abomination of desolation. He shall stand up against the prince of princes, that's Revelation 19, but he shall be broken without hand. And the counterpart to that is in, we'll move this back over, Daniel 11:36 through 46. I'm not going to read that whole thing. I'm going to start. This is the verse directly after Antiochus Epiphanes. Here's the transition to the fourth beast by virtue of the abomination of desolation imagery. And the king shall do according to his will. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. That is the same thing as he shall magnify himself in his heart, from Daniel 8:25. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate he shall honor the God of forces, that a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. He shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Indeed, this final beast/kingdom is all over the book of Daniel. It is prophesied in Daniel 2, 7, 8, 9, and 11. It finds its counterpart fulfillment in Revelation 13. Revelation 13:1, I stood upon the sand of the sea, saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, his feet were as the feet of a bear, his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and a seat and great authority. And indeed, Daniel also told us the same, that this king will not operate in his own power. Daniel 8:24, his power shall be mighty, but not in his own power. Why? Because the dragon gives him his power and his seat and great authority. Now we'll learn more about what type of power this king will have over people as we progress through Revelation 13. For now, there is one piece of imagery left to discuss before we move on to the next verses in the chapter. And this involves specifically what the 7 heads and the 10 horns refer to. For that answer, we go to Revelation 17. We'll start in verse 7. The angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her. So we're introducing a little bit more here. We know what the beast is, but that's why I was messing with this down here. Because the beast, we know, is color-coded black. It's the one who shall commit the abomination of desolation and ultimately meet Jesus. He'll magnify himself in his heart, and then he will eventually stand against the Prince of Princes and be broken without hand. But there is much more imagery to explain all of this, what shall be surrounding, I guess, the people, the places, all of that, that will be surrounding this beast in the end times, explained in Revelation 17. So, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her. So we're really interested mostly in imagery of the beast, but we also note here he is going to be carrying a woman. What is the woman? Wickedness. Which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Well, we already know that because he is the angel of the bottomless pit, currently in the bottomless pit, which is why he is not. And we're told he will ascend out of the bottomless pit in Revelation 11:7 and Revelation 13:1, sister passages. So we already know that part. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder after him, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. That is actually mirrored in Revelation 13:8. We haven't gotten there yet. When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Now here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh he must continue a short space. The beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Yes, that's us. Now there's much confusion about the meaning of these verses because there is a rush to conflate kings with kingdoms, and this we must not do. The woman is said to sit on many waters. Revelation 17:1. There came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. He said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are people and multitude and nations and tongues. So it's important to note because she said to sit on multiple things. And obviously 100% of this is imagery. And we are given understanding of the imagery in Revelation 17. So first, she's said to sit on many waters. The woman is also said to sit upon 7 mountains, which are explained to be 7 rulers. I just updated that, so I'll reread it. The woman is also said to sit upon 7 mountains, which are explained to be 7 powers, which have 7 rulers. Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings, so 1 king per mountain. 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. She also sits upon the 8th, for the woman is said to ride the beast. So she sits upon many waters, waters being peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues, which means she controls the world. She sits upon the rulers, she sits upon 7 mountains, which are empires led by rulers who do her will, essentially. So she leads them too. And she also sits upon the 8th, which is the woman riding the beast. Revelation 17:3, he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the beast that was and is not, he is the 8th and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. So there's a lot of control aspect that we are to understand of this woman. Not only does she direct kings and kingdoms, she directs people, and she directs the beast, who is going to be the final ruler, similar to the 7 who came before. To begin to make sense of this, we must understand that the woman is a reference to the city Babylon. The imagery here is to depict the reach of Babylon throughout the ages as the city which is set against God and thus permits all activities which are set against God, including pagan worship. Now, indeed, the woman is titled Mother of Harlots and the Abominations of the Earth. Revelation 17:4, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked, so she's royalty, is decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. So there's 3 descriptions of the woman. What is the mystery of the woman? The woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Yes, Babylon the Great. Babylon is where the beast will establish his headquarters during the second half of Daniel's 70th week. This move from Jerusalem to Babylon is marked by the second angel which flies through the midst of the heaven in Revelation 14, after the preaching of the everlasting gospel, and before the warning to not worship this beast, his image, or receive his mark. Revelation 14:8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. That is literal. Where it started with Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, it will come full circle in the end times. And that is what Zechariah 5 tells us, that wickedness, the woman, will be set upon her own base in the land of Shinar. Shinar is in Daniel 1:1, where they were carted away captive amidst the Babylonian captivity. Plains of Shinar, where the Tower of Babel was built. So this is all very literal about Babylon. The city of Babylon was not set on 7 literal mountains. In fact, the Tower of Babel was built on the plains of Shinar. Mountains, like horns, represent power. We already discussed this in Revelation 9, where we discussed the mountain that stands against God's holy mountain of Zion, the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, from where the northern army will originate, that Jesus defeats at his second coming. If you don't know about that, just go check out the last part of my study of Revelation 9. I wrote all about it. Rather, the 7 heads are 7 mountains are 7 rulers. Those are the same things. They are synonymous terms, rather. The Revelation 13 beast is the 8th, being of the same ilk as the previous 7, and will go about his destruction at his appointed time. Thus, as we have seen, he is properly named the Destroyer, Apollyon. The Greek word for perdition is Apollyon. Perdition means destruction. So he is properly named the Destroyer. Literally, that is his name. Similarly, The 10 horns are also 10 kings. However, they have never received a kingdom like the 7 heads did and like the 8th will. Rather, their power will exist for an altogether different reason. So who are the 7 rulers that came before this final beast? There are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. The 5 that had come are references to leaders of the kingdoms of Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, Medo-Persia, and Greece. The one that is, or was in John's time, referred to the leader of the Roman Empire. The one that had not yet come, but when he did was to continue a short space, was likely a reference to the Ottoman Empire, not a revived Roman Empire as many would suggest. And the reason I say Ottoman is because the Ottoman Empire deposed the Roman Empire. After the fall of one of the branches of the Roman Empire, it moved into the Byzantine Empire, and then it moved into something else entirely. But the Byzantine Empire was an extension of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire fell in totality when the Ottoman Empire deposed it in the 1500s, which lasted until 1917, 1918, and that was when Israel was allowed to go back into her land, allowed to move back in. So what we learn of the empires, and I kind of solicited feedback, and then I realized that it probably wasn't a great idea. I should just tell you what I mean rather than have you guess what you think I mean. There are about 14 million ideas out there about what these kingdoms represent. And what we need to understand of them in order to identify this 7th empire, and I'm not dogmatic that it's the Ottomans, but I do believe so, because after the fall of the Roman Empire completely, the Ottoman Empire took over, and then there hasn't been another empire. The next empire that will exist after the fall of the Ottomans, which controls Jerusalem, will be this 4th and final beast from Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. What we notice similarity-wise about the 5 that were, the one that is or was in John's time, and the one to come, is that they all ruled over either Israel, Egypt, because they hadn't entered their promised land yet, or they were in control of Jerusalem. And that applied to Egypt, Assyria. The Assyrian army was what actually ended the kingship under the house of Israel. Babylonia was where the kings under the house of Judah ended their reign. In the 3rd and final exile of Babylonian captivity, it ended with the reign of Zedekiah. The next Judaic king to sit on the throne will be Jesus. And then obviously we already learned that from Babylon it moved to Medo-Persia to Greece. So Egypt and Assyria were the other 2 that came before, and those either ruled over the people of Israel, enslaved them, or had specific geographic territory over either the house of Israel or the house of Judah or Jerusalem itself. So those related to the land and the people of Israel and dominion over the land and the people of Israel, if not destroying them in part. So the one that is was a reference to the Roman Empire, and we know that they were responsible for the destruction of the city and the sanctuary in 70 AD. And again, there were differing lengths of the different arms, branches of the Roman Empire, all the way up until the Ottoman Empire displaced it in 1517. So that's why I do believe the 7th one is a reference to the Ottoman Empire, because they controlled Jerusalem for 400 years prior to 1917, 1918, and then Israel was back in their land, or started going back in their land, because that's when you start having the UN resolutions regarding Israel. And then, obviously, the next empire, or next kingdom, or next king that will rule over the people in the land of Israel is your Revelation 13 beast. So that's the case that I make for that. Again, I'm not dogmatic about it, but I don't believe anything else is intended there other than the Ottoman Empire. So I said it's important to know that the understanding of who these leaders and kingdoms are goes back to who had rule over the geographic land or people of Israel. This makes it easier to understand the progression of empires from Egypt back in the days of Moses to the Ottoman Empire, which ruled from 1517 to approximately 1917, 1918, the time when Israel began to return to her land. The 8th, who is of the 7, will rule over the land and the people of Israel until Jesus returns to end that rule. And we learn this from Daniel 11:39. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. He shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Again, many is a reference to the people of Israel in the book of Daniel. And Revelation 13:7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints to overcome them. Power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, Israel included. Now, hopefully this discussion has cleared up any confusion about these references, if any confusion was present. Hopefully now you know who the beast and the 10 kings are, as well as what the woman is, Babylon, as well as who and what 7 heads, 7 mountains, and 7 kings were references to. Having said all that, let us return to Revelation 13, where all of this should now make perfect sense. Revelation 13:1. I stood upon the sand of the sea, saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 7 crowns, upon his heads the name of blasphemy. The beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, his feet were as the feet of a bear, his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So that is where I have ended. So hopefully this clears up confusion. As always, if you guys have questions, comments, or feedback, let me know. I will make this available in the near future, but now we will return to the chapter of Revelation 13 and start going through the sequence of events to take us back into the 6th trumpet, where he receives his deadly head wound, which is what the next verse talks about. What is that from? That is where we shall pick up. So thanks again for your time, and I appreciate all of your interest in this study. Again, if you have questions, comments, or feedback, let me know. But this is very interesting for me, things that I haven't previously written about. I'm not sure that I'm sure I've talked about them. But yeah, it's just interesting for me, so I hope you guys find it interesting as well. I'll see you later.